Okay, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, depending on where you are. Thanks for coming to our webinar on point solutions versus platforms and why we think that all-in-one platforms are the clear winner. Um, my name's Ellen Thompson. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Respage. And yesterday when we were practicing, I did have a cold, but my apologies that I'm a little bit stuffed up here. Like to have my co-panelist Dustin say hi.
Hey guys, Dustin, Lacey here, Vice President of Marketing Technology at Mark Taylor. And I can confirm Ellen sounded healthy as they come yesterday. And she's going to be fine today. So glad to be here. Excited to chat.
And I'm glad you're here too. So let's, without further ado, let's just dive in. So first, want to level set with some definitions. So Dustin, can you tell everybody what a point solution is?
Yeah, so point solutions like a chatbot, right? And so when you talk about the need for integrations, it's because of the abundance of these point solutions that address an individual sliver of the lead to lead journey. And so another example would be a CRM exclusively. There can be any number of different tooling sets that one would need within the PMC space. That could be considered a point solution. And we'll go in a little bit deeper as to kind of the pros and cons of point solution versus a platform solution, which is, you know, Ellen described it in full, but it's in essence a collection of vertically integrated point solutions all in one. So that's the general working definition.
All right, awesome. So if a point solution is solving a single problem, then a platform is software that's designed to solve multiple problems within the same framework. So just some examples, you know, I think Entrada a couple of years ago at NAA, they said, you know, we have something to do that. So Entrada from the ground up built a system to integrate a property management software solution, CRM, and lots of other solutions that talk to each other, and they were architected from the ground up to work together. Funnel the same way, so that you don't have to have a platform that's doing everything in property management software. You can have a platform that handles some of the journey. So Funnel is an example of a platform that handles a CRM and AI leasing, and also the actual application and leasing process. And then Respage,
Yep.
we're looking at the sort of marketing to leasing part of the journey. So just generating leads, using social media reputation, managing social media reputation, and then bringing leads into a CRM and automating the process with AI. So a platform doesn't have to be solving all of your problems, but the idea is that it's solving multiple problems within the same software.
That's right.
So do you want to talk a little bit about why people use point solutions, Dustin?
Yeah, well, I can talk about why people use them. I can also tell you, I can speak to kind of the general pros. So it's very challenging to build a platform because one must have expertise in any number of aspects of not only the technology piece, but the application thereof within the operating model of a property management company. So from a point solution advantage standpoint, look, if your sole focus is on solving one problem, and obviously this is predicated on having the right individuals supporting that product, but it's conceivable that that product can be best in class because your sole focus is on solving that one problem. So, you know, typically the attractiveness of a point solution is that, for example, if we're talking about chatbot solutions and we're talking about best in class in PMC space, you know, you're talking about a meet a lease or a tooling that can answer up to, you know, 280 to 350 explicit questions and all the various permutations thereof. That's very difficult, teaching your tooling to do that. And if that is your sole focus, you're probably going to generate a better product than what we've seen from the big providers of platforms in our space e.g. Yardi, RealPage explicitly. And why I think there's a distinction with the Respage piece. So there are advantages. You can see strong product that in terms of problem solving relative to that individual problem. And we'll go into kind of the negatives associated with it. But that's typically the strongest incentive for seeking a point solution, because you as an operator want best in class and not what is just kind of prepackaged and may or may not be solving all of your needs relative to that one individual solution. For example, like a onboard CRM with Yardi Rent Cafe. Is that the best in class CRM, or is it a product that was built to meet the needs of all people and therefore doesn't do any one aspect that a CRM is asked to fulfill very well?
All right, so if there are advantages, the advantages of point solutions are that you can choose what is you decide is the best in class for your particular needs. And it's really interesting because there could be 3 chatbot providers, and we all have different features. And so it's perfectly fine for one organization to think supplier A is better than supplier B. But the disadvantages are when you are combining point solutions, you're going to end up having to pay for each individual point solution. So if somebody's selling you a website and that they are best in class in websites, you're going to pay them for a website, as opposed to organizations that might include a website as part of the property management software or SEO agreement. We see a lot of bundling of chatbots with CRMs. I would argue that the chatbots that are bundled with CRMs aren't as good as some of the standalone ones, but they're free, and so you're definitely paying a bigger price tag. The other thing that's important is to recognize is that your costs are beyond just the check that you're writing for the software provider. You have to manage those suppliers, and there's actually a real cost in terms of just getting them paid. It costs about $10 per month to pay your suppliers, and then of course you've got to meet with them. So imagine having 12 suppliers and they're all trying to meet with you every month. It just gets really time consuming. The other thing that is a challenge is integration. So one of the desirabilities of a Yardi or an Entrata is everything is designed to be integrated together. So the more point solutions you have, the more potential points of failure you have around integration. And what's also the case is not all integrations are created equally. So just because you say you integrate with a property management software or CRM doesn't mean you have a deep integration. And one of the things that we've been thinking about is when you have multiple products that are working together, you can start getting them to inform each other. So as an example, one of the things that we do is we have AI leasing, so we understand what people are asking about during the leasing process, and we can gather those interests. And what we're doing now is looking last week and writing social media posts that highlight the features and amenities that are being discussed in the leasing process. So that's an example where you're using some data from one point solution to impact the feature of another point solution. And for any of you who do manage social media, one of the big complaints we get is it's just really hard to come up with original content. So this is an example where you have highly relevant content. It's what people are asking about, and people definitely are going to your social media to sort of get that softer side of what it's like to live with you. So if they're like, oh, I was asking if it was a smoke-free building or about the balconies, so you see that in social media, and it just helps you feel like, okay, that's something that I'm interested to recognize. And then the other thing is analytics. So I think when people are discussing AI, I think that people when I ask people what AI is, I often hear they think it's automation. And they think of ChatGPT and natural language processing and the ability to read and write text. But I think the most interesting part of AI is to be able to use data. And again, if you have data about the prospect and resident journey from first touch all the way to renewal, you start gathering data about how happy they are, where they came from, and you can start thinking about having insights like, are they going to renew? So one of the things that our data scientist has been able to do for customers who are using our platform is see the survey results, see reviews, and really understand whether that person's happy or not. And we can now predict whether they're an individual person is going to renew with a 78% accuracy. And that's only going to get better, but that's an example of using different products to provide data that lets you reinvent what's possible with analytics.
Yeah, and Ellen, I might add that, you know, one of the challenges we face with point solutions is that at some point there's an exit strategy for that provider, right? They're building a product, they're bringing it to market. It's a very laborious and challenging bootstrapping effort. While, you know, property management is, you know, seemingly large when you're in it, the available universe isn't so sizable that there's a lot of new entrants building really bleeding edge, cutting edge tech. So when we do get somebody, what invariably happens is as they reach critical mass, the threat of acquisition looms. And for those that have been in the space long enough, they, within property management, they know that typically that acquisition looks like a Yardi acquisition or a RealPage acquisition, where they then subsume the product, probably stop supporting it to clear the road for their own product, and eventually it deprecates and goes away. We have personal experience with this, with the on-site lease execution point solution that we've used for, you know, we used for 6.5 years and are now replacing with our own lease execution product. And we're leaving it because the product hasn't evolved. It was formerly its own product. It was a point solution. Then it was acquired by RealPage. And then it kind of just started to drift. And so as you're thinking about point solutions, I think a good question to ask is, what is your exit strategy? Are you guys here for the long haul, or do you have a, you know, is there a shot clock? You know, when can we anticipate the news that, just like Entrata recently with a Rent Dynamics, or, you know, the list goes on, when can we expect for our product to change hands, and therefore the support levels and all the various things that are associated with our relationship with that point solution and its provider? When does that all change? It's an important, for those savvy operators, it's an important question to ask, because it does impact your business possibly, but quite predictably downstream.
Well, and now there's another challenge. So, you know, just there's a lot of money to fund property technology solutions and point solutions. And in 2020, 2021, 2022, there were, you know, if you had a good idea and you were an entrepreneur, it was relatively
You're funded.
easy. Yeah, but that's changed in the same way that our, you know, our multifamily environment has changed, and we have a little bit of headwinds. We also have headwinds in the VC space. So it used to be that, you know, you raise your seed capital and you raise $1 million and you build this product and you're chugging along, and you could just guarantee that you're going to get that $5 million to take it to the next level. Well, that's not happening anymore. If you don't have a what's called product market fit, which basically means that you've got customers that like your product, that they're paying enough for your product for you to stay in business, that you're a little bit further down the sales road, we're starting to see businesses go out of business, right? So we didn't really see that in the past. I mean, there are a few,
Yep.
But I just know, you know, looking at some of our competitors, we just don't hear about some of them anymore. And it's, you know, we know what our revenue is. And honestly, if we weren't selling 10 different things, I don't think we'd be in a good position. We're a different kind of company because we're bootstrapped. We never took venture capital. So we had to know how to, you know, make a profit. And but I think it's really important when you're evaluating point solutions, like, is that point solution going to be around? And to Dustin's point,
Yep.
is it going to be acquired, or are you going to be in business? Like, so there's no guarantee if you didn't get follow-on funding, if you haven't raised money and you're losing money, you know, how do you survive?
Yeah, especially now, Ellen, given the acute pain associated with the downstream impact of this inflationary economy. I can remember just 2 years ago, at some of our large industry conferences, there were, you know, 6, 8, 10 chatbots that were, you know, at conferences and had booths and the like. And, you know, many of those have kind of disappeared. So it's an important aspect of this process as you're kind of deliberating on which kind of path to go and the pros and cons. Definitely important.
Yeah, and the chatbot's a very good example because really the reason that the chatbot providers have come and gone is because, whether it's stock or whether it's highly or you're going to get a free chatbot with your CRM, right? So, and I can tell you from experience, it doesn't matter how great your point solution chatbot is. It's free definitely beats out paying for any other chatbot. So you also have to
That's
think
right.
about, is it going to be something that is this a point solution that is non-obvious, or is it something that, is your bigger players are going to develop within the next 18 months? But that's really why
Yep.
I mean, we've seen our share of chatbot cancellations, and that's why we evolved to be more, end-to-end AI leasing, because like literally every CRM has a chatbot, and that's why we developed our own CRM, because we realized, at some point AI leasing will be part of the feature set of CRMs. So that's why we developed a CRM.
That time is here. So you were prescient.
So what I'd love to do is stop sharing the PowerPoint deck and talk to Dustin about his experience of building a platform for Mark Taylor. So they're in a very unusual position, and so I'm gonna share my camera, and I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, and hopefully you guys can see us. So
We can.
awesome. So Dustin, would love for you to talk a little bit about, so you have a very interesting title. You're not really just the director of marketing, you're the vice president of marketing and technology. So talk a little about, what you've done at Mark Lacey to build your own technology, because I think it's a really interesting story.
Yeah, so in 17, when I joined, I came from American manufacturing, constantly getting squeezed. You're offshoring, you're riffing, you're consolidating. It's a scary business, and it's a bit of a sad business when you're a part of it. And margins are obviously super thin as you're competing with manufacturing that's coming from, offshore, that, its costs are sizably less and material less than that which, we are able to enjoy here in the States. And because of that, data is really important. So when I joined in 17, we were very data centric on the development side specifically, and in key areas of our operations. We at Mark Taylor have been around for about 40 years. We're the largest commercial developer in the history of the state. In fact, the Southwest, if you remove California from that equation. We've been at this for quite a while, and we've got an abundance of data, but we've never really been able to allow it to inform key aspects of our operations within the marketing sphere. So when I joined, we looked around the available universe for point solutions because everybody that's on call that's familiar with our industry knows how difficult it is to change a PMS, right? And so we're a Resman house after many years as a Yardy house, and eventually became, grew disenchanted with their product and their support, et cetera. And we decided that the best solution for us was to co-develop a product that allowed us to meet the needs of the moment. At that time, we were answering our phones at about a 51% call answer rate. We had cost per lead of $70 to $700, and it became untenable and evident that we needed to be better at not only administering white glove service from a lead gen and lead management standpoint, but also we needed an ability to, at any given point, 24/7, peek in at performance and be able to make informed decisions relative to whatever aspect of the business we were looking at, specifically within the marketing space. Today, we have, been at this for 5 years. We are fully embracing a centralized services model for lead gen, lead management, resident management, maintenance, IT, aspects of the accounting role, specific to the assistant manager role. And we have moved those to a centralized location. And in doing so, we needed a product that allowed us to do that in full. I use this phrase a lot, but we didn't want to shrink to fit in the spaces we'd outgrown. And so we tackled lead gen and lead management first, successfully moved off of ILSs in full. We've got about 26,000 Class A units here in Las Vegas, here in Phoenix and in Las Vegas. And we no longer rely on ILSs, which for anybody that's on the call knows those are premium fee-based costs with imperfect line of sight from an attribution standpoint to really understand and assess the value that they in fact are delivering. And as their costs continue to climb, especially now as folks are scrambling to augment their lead gen because we're seeing a change in the marketplace. We knew we needed to start first with call answer rates. So we built ourselves a sites platform, took all of our ad strategy in-house, and then started managing leads from our own CRM, which we launched. By the way, the timing was lucky. We launched it March 10th of 2020. So just a couple of days after COVID lockdowns hit the city. And it was fortuitous. We now answer our phones at a 92+% call answer rate. Of those calls that receive, 70+% are resident calls. So it's not just about managing your leads appropriately. It's about providing a reaffirming buying decision relationship and touch point with your residents as well. For us, that was critical. And because we now answer our phones at the rate we do, our marketing costs per unit, hover anywhere between 100. We have some properties that are sub 100 for the larger properties, annualized cost per unit. We've been able to strip out sizable costs while simultaneously improving performance. As I indicated, we quickly segued into a chat tool. And today, we'll be launching our large language model chat tool here shortly that can converse in 68 languages. You can ask it, if I can DJ at the pool with the sun shining and bring my large breed dog in for a swim. You can ask it. There's no bounds as to what you can ask. We needed that. As we move to a centralized position, our goal is to reduce staff footprint on-prem while improving performance, thereby driving out payroll costs. The impetus being, and you guys are all seeing this, it's now more challenging than ever to secure high-quality individuals who can administer your white glove service on-prem. And if you do find them staying is also quite a bit of a challenge. It's a revolving door. We have high turnover rates at our entry-level positions, both on the leasing team and service side. And that's just a deal breaker and a single point of failure in terms of your ability to do the core things that really matter well. And so by introducing a chat tool, we created the ability to provide immediate service to those who are interested in it. Post-COVID, we noticed the acceleration amongst our demographic, they whom have an average household income of $125K. These are folks where, the world doesn't bend to them, but they know what good looks like. They CrossFit, they go to Sedona on weekends. They're aware and perceptive, and they want immediacy of service. And post-COVID, where we were introduced to a lot of self-servicing. If you shop at Home Depot or any of the major big box stores, you now note that you're asked to check yourself out. And I'm not sure that payroll deduction for those providers is actually reflected in the cost of their products. I'm guessing it isn't. But that mindset is now more pervasive. If you saw Jay Parsons' recent post on LinkedIn, he's the chief economist, data scientist for CoStar. They instituted or administered a large survey of current residents. And that survey was telling 78% of the respondents said they didn't want a single touch with a leasing team member in their process. They wanted self-guided touring. They wanted all the capabilities at their fingertips with less interaction with what they viewed as a hard sale. So for us, the next step was integrating a chat tooling that worked both externally, but also supported our centralized features. When we now have pods of properties. We have fully closed properties at Mark Taylor, Class A properties, which is territory we never thought we would ever see. And we're seeing peak performance, call answer rates, conversion rates, lead to lease, lead to tour. All of these different indicators are telling us this is viable and possible. We needed a tool that would intercept some of those inbounds to live staff members as we're trying to draw down that staff footprint and provide the same level of service and allow them to schedule tours, schedule amenities, do the different things that we needed. So we've placed this chat tooling today in our resident portal. We've got it on, our dual website footprint, and it acts as a very strong intermediary with conversion rates that are comparable to those interactions with live staff members. Shortly after that, we recognized we needed a competitive analysis tool. We built a BI tool to scrape data from all of our core competitors. We needed to inform pricing in real time. We could no longer wait for market surveys at the end of the month. We needed to be able to move quickly, establish tolerances, plus and minuses. If a core comp set moved outside of that tolerance, we needed to know so we could adjust. So in essence, we built a BI tool that allowed us to track occupancy and concessions and all the key things that inform our pricing, but then allowed us to be nimble from a pricing standpoint. Yes, we control 40% of the Class A marketplace in Phoenix, but, you know, we're not larger than the market. The market dictates pricing. There is no evil landlord that allows you to kind of say, oh, we're going to set these outside price points and folks are just going to be forced to pay. No, that's not the case. We've got 34,000 units of new supply coming online in 23 and 24, for which job growth is the only indicator of the unit demand, and job growth numbers are indicating 12,000 units of demand for 34,000 units of new inventory. You're competing not only with your existing product set, but all of this new product, which is honestly, for our demographic, which turns over at our properties at about a 50% clip, is very attractive. And as we're coming into a period where retention is really critical as we try and hold rental rates, we need the ability to be informed with insights that drive decision-making in real time. And so we've got a competitive analysis tool that surfaces these insights via business intelligence dashboard. We visualize that data. It's available at any given time. And then we moved into the lease execution space. As I indicated before, we've had a really good product that, you know, formerly that is, you know, declined and is in decline, is lightly supported on the RealPage side. And by the way, I have a lot of friends at RealPage. Ellen and I do. We're not trying to knock any one provider. Just want to give you our vantage point from the Mark Taylor side. And so today we've got, you know, 7 or 8 products that we are utilizing in a platform, a fully integrated stack. And as Ellen indicated, the value for us is truly not only that we're able to build best in class at these individual steps, as we're, you know, terming point solutions, but we're then able to take the data derived and inform to other areas of our business. And so if you're, for example, noting, you know, an abundance of concessions being levied by competitors for a specific submarket, we're able to take that data and inform our pricing, right? And we're able to do these different things that are really important. The Respage product takes, you know, takes the sum of engagement with prospects and allows that to inform social media posts in an actionable way that's more potent, that meets that prospective renter where they are and feels more personal. That's what we've been able to do with our platform stack, not only wring out costs while also improving performance, but think about now the impact for you as an operator only having to manage a single invoice instead of multiple product teams, multiple account success managers, and multiple account managers who on any given day may be having any host of problems associated with their integration or whatever. Because we've been able to simplify our processes, it's freed us to focus on higher value items versus having to manage the, you know, the spectrum of providers who in the end can provide data for their narrow functional aspect of our business, but we can't deploy that elsewhere. Today we can because we have a platform versus a collection of point solutions. That was long, Ellen, but I think it gives you guys the full bite. So hopefully that was helpful.
So not everybody has you, Dustin, and 5 years to catch up and the scale that you have to build their own software. So what's some advice that you could give our audience as they're thinking about centralization and, you know, they're thinking about how hard is the staff and the headwinds that we're going into next year to reduce costs?
Yeah. Look, you know, I'll be fully candid with you. I don't know how you compete with a centralized operator who's delivering peak performance at reduced cost. At a time where it's incredibly critical. We have not seen the full impact of what is ahead of us. Our basket of indicators are telling us that 2024 is going to be very, very challenging in the Phoenix marketplace for the reasons I've indicated, obviously abundance of supply, et cetera. But there's all kinds of different factors. We follow cash freight, et cetera. It's going to be a challenging period. Number one, you've got to start. You've got to start. And if you were saying, hey, Dustin, where should I start? Should I start with lead gen? Should I start with lead manager? Should I start with the maintenance side? Maintenance side, I'll cut to the chase. The maintenance side is a full bite. It's a massive undertaking. Are you going to be able to reduce payroll? Probably not. Can you improve performance via efficiencies with, inventory management tools, deploying a Happy Co who allows digital term boards and digital tap? Yes, you can. And so you will realize value there. But that's a later stage piece from our vantage point of the centralized effort. Starting small, getting your first win is what's most important. And as we've been told by numerous large platform providers, most recently at AIM, the big conference in Huntington this year by RealPage, do you know what our call answer rates are on average for our industry? 30 to 40%. Think about that. That is brutal, especially with the ever increasing costs of generating a lead. And by the way, the expanding decision-making time cycle associated with taking a lead to a lease. You have to be more places, spending more money to ensure awareness so that you're in front of that all too coveted prospect. It's not the time to sit on this. Yes, we started 5 years ago, but there's easy button items. You get on a Respage platform, you can drop your best leasing consultant, leave them on their property, assign them 3 properties, and allow them to answer leads and phone calls so that you improve your engagement rates. Look, do you know what our conversion rates are for lead to lease if we don't answer a phone call? They're sub 2%. They're not, almost not even worth calling back. If we miss that phone call, the probability of that converting to a lease is near 0. If we answer that phone call, we are just under 40% conversion rates. That is a material impact. So when you go, okay, how does Mark Taylor compete in Phoenix with the portfolio size and market share that they have and not operate on ILSs? That's how. Answer that first. Own your lead gen. Start there. Start spending money not on ILSs, but get a good digital strategist who doesn't have competing interests within the marketplace, meaning they're not managing 3 other PMC's portfolio within your sub-market or your city, so that they're having to play kingmaker and decide who's going to benefit on any given day. Find yourself a strong ad strategist, own your lead gen, and quickly move into a CRM style platform that is going to be able to allow you to start consolidating resources from a staffing standpoint, improve your performance in the form of call answer rates, and watch what it does to your ad costs as you drive those down, because you're simply providing white glove service, answering your phones, not only for prospects, for residents. By the way, the impact to residents, we survey our residents every single month. And yes, we've seen improved resident sentiment because we are now more available. So if you're wondering, hey, should I do this? Should I start? It's not as challenging as you think. You can do this. Think about spending $3,000 a month on apartments.com, $1,500 a month on rent.com, and what that adds up. That's a salary. Get yourself an ad strategist. Get that taken care of. Find a Respage, a really strong CRM that could create a consolidated look, supports a centralized push, and just start doing it tomorrow. Start answering your phones tomorrow and see what benefit that generates for you. That would be my unsolicited advice. You asked. I would start small so you can collect wins. And then once you've got that established and that's highly functioning, you're going to have to approach a change management play. There's going to be heavy communication with your teams, because transitioning folks from an operating model does induce a bit of fear. And there is change aversion amongst key members of your team. But if you get out in front of it and tether it to your larger objectives and let them know that, the time to fix the roof is when the sun is shining. What is ahead of us is sizable, and we're going to feel it acutely. If we don't start now, we're in trouble.
That's terrific. Justin, any other comments before we go to our questions from the audience?
You guys can do it. You can do this. It's really important that you can do it. I know that a lot of our executive ranks in our industry are populated by folks who started on-prem and worked their way up. And, perhaps there's a bit of a protectionist disposition around your role because you worked so hard to get there. But you can do this, and you will realize impact immediately. Own your lead gen, own your lead management, and then start to expand your efforts. Bring in your assistant manager role. Own some of that report generation that goes out to your third-party clients. Do that better. Wring the data distortion out. Improve your product. You can do all of that, and it doesn't take a significant amount. One other aspect of this that's notable that I think you guys should know, that a full platform unlocks. If you empower, one of the things that's not spoken about a lot in our industry is just how difficult it is to deal with the onboarding of a new point solution or even a larger product. I alluded to the PMS change play and how massive that is and material that is and how challenging that is for an organization. We in this industry don't do onboarding new products particularly well, and you see a lot of people kind of fail. And the beneficiary of that performance is your leasing teams. So if you can close that revolving door product trials and all the different things, and instead identify a single platform solution that becomes familiar and allows the spectrum of capabilities for your operators on-prem or in your centralized offices, you create efficiency and higher fidelity, and in the end, happiness around roles. We have at Mark Taylor, predominantly our demographic employees is now Gen Z. And these are folks who characteristically want to know where the guardrails are. They want to know explicitly what they're doing. What is your plan for me? Am I meeting my expectations? And if you create specialists versus generalists, because you've chosen the correct software to support where you're going, software no longer becomes the issue, right? And the pivot behaviorally relative to workflows and stuff becomes a lighter ask. And as you start, say you opt in for just the Respage CRM, and then you start to expand the different features and functionalities that they offer you, it becomes less of a burden for your property teams for which you have engendered confidence because you've made a good decision at the outset with your product. And they feel better about you and your decision making, and it does drive confidence in leadership, for which right now I think there's a bit of a deficit. I think a lot of property teams, because they're distributed and they're not in the hallways of corporate colliding with, they're not part of those water cooler conversations. So perhaps there's missing aspects of it. And so we all know that there's back channel conversation that goes on with our property teams. You don't want that, especially when it's negative sentiment. You want happier employees. We survey our employees twice a year. And what we've found as we've made this larger pivot is that we've reduced the ineffectual nature of aspects of their job. They find happiness being specialists. We can pay them more. That's a big piece of it. I mean, our leasing service concierge, our goal is to pay them six figures. We need high quality individuals in these roles. And in essence, it's a call center. It's not sexy. So you've got to be able to make it make sense for this new demographic that is our future. Gen Z wants to they want to derive a sense of value from what they're doing. And so if you can paint a broader picture as to how this, and you can approach it various different ways. We've done it. We've been aspirational. We've been fear-based. Look, if we don't do this, the pain, if we play now, we'll pay later. You've got to own the messaging piece and really make it bite-sized so it's palatable and they can understand it, digest it, and connect with it. But the net gain here is that you end up having happier employees as well, which means you retain them. Our retention rates are improving. Why? Because people are happier being specialists, knowing for certain that they're meeting their job's requirements and exceeding them, and they're being compensated. It is a win-win because downstream, your all too important customer is happier now too, because they're interacting with a happier individual. Happy fingers mean happy cash registers. And at the end of the day, our job, not only as owner operators, but fee-based operators as well, is realizing the fullest financial potential of that property. And the best way to not only meet the tidal wave that's coming, but also improve your ability to attract and retain, is to start thinking outside of the antiquated operating model. And to do that well, you have to first identify software that will facilitate that, which is the basis for the call today. All right, I'm ready for questions.
All right, Lindsay, what do we got?
That was awesome, Dustin. Thank you. Our first question is, what if we already have a point solution or a feature that we really love? You know, do we have to use a platform option if we have a solution that we already really care for?
So Ellen, I think you have an answer for this as well. So critical at the outset is to understand what your success metric. What are you solving for? Why are we doing this? Chat tooling. We want to reduce workload for our property teams and thereby allow us to reduce footprint on-prem. We want to improve simultaneously. We want to improve experience. We want to be more timely. We want to reduce our engagement time windows. We have a 2-hour response time to form fill leads, email leads. We have a live agent function. We want to be better, more timely, more efficient, more proficient. You want to really question what your mandatories are, establish what those are, and be outside. Create a needs list, and I would label it have to haves, want to haves, and wish to haves, right? And so you understand what your mandatories are on your have to have. Want to haves, you know, this is a negotiating room. And then you apply that to your current technology. Is this technology, do we have a feel good about it because we want to feel good about it because we were, you know, the arbiter of the decision, or we facilitated the onboarding and the decision? Really challenge your notions. That will allow you to do that. So establish what your mandatories are, what your want to haves, wish to haves are, and then what the success metrics are, and then apply that lens to what you have today. And if it is in fact meeting your needs, one of the valuable aspects of a platform is that they can accommodate integration. And so there's a world where maybe you keep your point solution and maybe it integrates seamlessly into the platform ecosystem. It's going to be a challenge. I don't see that done well anywhere, but it can be done. So it really then becomes a cost-benefit analysis. Okay, yes, we really love Me2Lease from a chat tooling standpoint because we have multiple properties right next to the new TSMC fabrication plant for semiconductors in Northwest Phoenix, like we do. And we have a large population of Mandarin speakers. And we like that product because of the versatility around language. Well, so that's great. And that's terrific. But that is an aspect of your portfolio. More broadly, what does the portfolio need? Apply that lens and evaluate. And then you run a cost benefit analysis versus the onboard chat tooling that's associated with your platform. And there are going to be give and takes. And then you have to determine whether the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. But if you thoughtfully approach it in the front end and establish what your core needs are and what your wants are, and you understand that clearly, and be moonshot here. Don't restrain yourself to just kind of what is, you know, status quo thinking around this. Be broad. One of the aspects you're going to want to ask your point solution providers and your platform providers is, hey, can you give me a glimpse at your product roadmap? Where are you guys going? Are you guys integrating large language models? Are you integrating the ChatGPT tooling? Are we going to have, you know, a supercharged chat tool in the future? Understand that as well. You're not making a decision just to meet today's needs, but also tomorrow's, right? And so if you really understand your needs list, you can apply that lens and be more thoughtful with your decision making. In the end, make the best decision for your business. Ellen, what are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are just because it's free doesn't mean you have to use it. So, you know, as an example, we have a customer who uses Entrata as a property management software and CRM system, and they have a chatbot, but the chatbot wasn't able to go on Facebook or Google Business Profile, and they decided that they wouldn't use the free chatbot, they would use our chatbot because it could solve those issues. On the flip side, a lot of people are very married to their Aura scores or their Satisfax rankings, and so they don't want to use our survey product. That's fine. It's still a wonderful value, but I think the most important thing is to understand what you're giving up, because we lose sort of some of the data that might help you make really great decisions. So I think it's what I like about this industry is it's not a one size fits all, but just because something's free doesn't mean it's the right solution. And we're websites isn't a big, we do websites, but it's not a big priority here. But it always drives me crazy that people think that websites should be free when just having a custom website. We have a customer who gets 13 out of 14 of their leases through organic traffic on their website because they've invested a lot. But other people are like, why am I paying for a website because I can get one that's free? So I just think the most important thing is to have that growth mindset and to sort of, question your assumptions about things, and then you can make the choice. You want to have your ORA score, that's great, but it doesn't mean that having the platform is a bad solution.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to the ORA score piece. We bought into the J. Turner branded ORA score designation because we see value in benchmarking our survey performance to not only our regional area, but the larger national footprint. And it's helpful, it feels good, but you know what doesn't happen? Those survey results are very valuable. And if we're asking our residents to fill them out, what are we doing to make their responses actionable? You can't pull in J. Turner survey scoring and make that actionable. That's a net negative for us. And what invariably happens is, your property managers, your regionals, we have a very explicit expectation around management of responses. But what happens is there's drift. And so in the end, what real value are you getting if you're not in that top 20 performers and you can point to that with prospective clients, customers, et cetera? What value are in fact gathering? So really think about, hey, do I want kind of the industry's, most popular tool, but just because the industry's, says they love it? Well, let's be honest, our industry's pretty antiquated. Still, we do a lot of, there are numerous PMC peers who talk to me about their lead management. They're still using Excel spreadsheets. Think about the value of fully integrated platforms and think about how that data from surveys that Respage surfaces is then made actionable in other areas of your business. Are you hearing that pricing is too high? Well, that's a strong signal that there's probably a movement play from your pricing standpoint, right? But you would never see that because you don't get that data in areas that allow you to service it and make it actionable because you've got point solutions everywhere. So as you're considering what you've already committed to and what is possible with the platform, think about your pros and cons, cost benefit, and analyze it, and think more broadly. And outside the vein of just that sliver of functional area that it's servicing. Your survey tool can be much more than just feedback. It can drive your pricing decisions. It can drive development decisions around what amenities people like, right? It can tell you, it can give you insights as to, how your product is being received by your individuals. And if there's decisions you need to make relative to, hey, maybe they're saying they're not happy with the fact that you now have a fully closed leasing office and don't like the fact that you can't just come in and walk in and chat with your leasing teams, and they're having problems with this notion of scheduling time, even if it means dedicated time with them, et cetera. You want to know these things in real time so that you can actually pivot or move or make decisions relative to this in real time and not have that data sequestered somewhere and perhaps never seen.
So you made one good point. So we get asked all the time, can we have API access to our data, which we have. We have a data lake and people can tap into it. So if you're going to use a point solution, you want to get that data into. A lot of people are starting to create their own BI platforms, and that's an important question to ask is, can you get your data out to do something else with it? So that's really interesting. Lindsay, I think we have time for one more question.
Yeah, absolutely. This could be a quick one. What do you estimate the average cost and time savings to be for point solutions versus platforms?
The average cost and time savings, point solution versus platform. So there's so we'll look, I'll give you our vantage point. There's a switching cost, right? And it's as simple as it sounds. If I'm having to jump from my PMS to my resident portal provider, you've got a browser open, right? And you've got multiple tabs and you're having to do these different things and they're not talking to each other. Think about the disadvantage that presents. just in efficiencies lost because you're having to switch, you're having to do these different things. You're not having the data surface to you in a unified dashboard that surfaces the key insights in real time for you. You're having to do that. And you may have maybe it's just an unusual day and you're being pulled in a million different directions. And you're not able to see that service request that pushes in to Henry, or you're not able to, and you're not able to make that actionable, and you deprecate your resident experience as well as your prospect experience. It's not just about the time you're saving for your leasing team, your service team. It's also about the time you're saving for your prospects and your residents, right? And so if you have a fully integrated, for example, our chat tooling allows live agent. If they're not, I'll be candid. I'm not a big fan of chat tooling. I don't like talking to a bot myself personally. I like to talk to a live agent. And so we allow that through our chat tooling. And we allow immediate response during our operating hours. If you're not there to meet that individual at time of need, what's the probability that they're going to find somebody else that is? That's a hook in the water, right? And on any given day in Phoenix, only 8 to 10% of the available universe of they who are seeking apartments, searching for apartments, can even afford a Mark Taylor Class A property. We don't have the luxury of not getting to those leads in real time. Like I said, our probability of converting to a lease falls by a magnitude if we don't, right? It's material for us. And all that means is more cost, more lead management that has to happen, more dead-end lead management, because again, we only have a sub 2% probability of converting a missed phone call to a lease if we're calling them back. Are they going to answer us? And that's just wasted motion. So when you're looking at it from the vantage point of a point solution versus a platform, the value for me and for our business is that we're able to take all of this disparate data and serve it in a unified dashboard and make it actionable, surface key insights in real time so that we're able to meet the needs of the moment in real time, not in a reactionary standpoint, not reacting and perhaps late, because we've stacked a bunch of point solutions, which may or may not be high fidelity in terms of their integration, and may or may not be bidirectional and sharing data, both ways. We lose all of that if you're talking about a point solution, and in losing it, we lose efficiency. And so when you're talking about a platform, it gives you your data from all the disparate places, all the disparate touch points, and surfaces success metrics. That makes you faster. So from our vantage point, there's just material value for us. If you are asking for tangible numbers, it's difficult really to give that. I know the industry average for lead to lease is on average 12 to 16 touches, according to RealPage recently. For us, we're 3 to 5, right? For a host of reasons. But, we have to attribute to that to the fact that, like Respage is doing, Respage takes communication, serves that information gleaned in their ads, in their social ads. So their ads are more potent, which means you're serving or delivering higher qualified leads who are more informed about your product and therefore have a higher probability of converting, which saves time in terms of lead extent. We spend an hour with our leads. What if it's an unqualified lead? We only find out an hour later that they're unqualified. That's wasted motion. If you have a higher qualified lead landing at your property or at your centralized location, you're not only improving the probability of converting it to a lease, but you're wringing out wasted motion for your property teams as they sort through qualified versus unqualified leads. That's just one example, but there's myriad examples. And, it's just much easier to land a platform and have that data served to you in a cockpit so that you can then elevate expectations around your key SOPs like lead management, resident management, et cetera. Ellen, what was your answer?
I think from the pure cost vantage point, it really depends on who your point solutions are. And I also think that, when you're Mark Taylor, you have more pricing power, but when you're a middle market player, that's where people are making their margin dollars and, so they can pay their investors back. So you can count up what you're paying for your point solutions and also what it's costing you to process those bills and the time that it takes to manage that relationship. And I think that makes it easy to make a decision, especially when there are headwinds. But what I'm more interested in is just the insights that we're going to be able to derive, and sort of the, in this environment, helping you generate the best results because of the data that you have. So I think that's really the more powerful thing. Harder to nail down what that value is, but very easy to nail down. We had a customer who was paying the same amount for just social media reputation management as our entire platform. So again, it really depends on, but I just think sometimes like the smaller companies get taken advantage of. Oh, it was breathtaking.
Yeah, I mean, it's really important to know that there's a lot of meat on the bone here from a cost saving standpoint. Obviously, with a platform, you're going to be able to scale pricing and acquire additional functionality. I know what the costs are for the Knox CRM and for the funnel CRM. It's not cheap on a per unit basis. Obviously, those are products that have established market fit in our market, in our industry. But the question is are you able to really feel and realize the potential value of all the information that they generate, because you're able to then inform other key decisions. And if you do, you are going to see value, not only from a cost saving standpoint relative to just the procurement of the product, but also from a reduced staffing footprint, from a reduced advertising cost, from a fidelity standpoint relative to your delivery of white glove. This is the time to start thinking about these things, because what's ahead of us is material and going to be very impactful. And if you would start to address this now, you're going to be ahead of your competitors on this who have, languished and waited. And it's really important that, you abandon this fear of failing in full view, and embark on this now, because in 12 months, you are going to be so happy that you did. And the best partner for you from a software standpoint is going to be a platform, because as Ellen alluded to, because of the diversity of insights that it allows you in real time and where it impacts your business with tangible data that you never would have or couldn't have because you've got a stack of point solutions.
Well, Dustin, thank you very much for joining me today to educate our audience about point solutions versus platforms. I learned a lot by listening to you. I'm going to tell my customers to answer their phone. And Lindsay, thanks so much for help with our webinar and with the wonderful presentation you did. And to our audience, thank you so much for spending time with us. If you'd like a copy of this presentation, let us know. And Dustin is happy to offer his insights to you personally. So if you want to get in touch with Dustin, just let us know and we'll put you in touch.
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn or reach out to Ellen. I talk to a peer twice a month about what we're doing. I'm an open book. I have no problem with kind of showing us sharing our circuitous route and approach to summiting this centralized mountain, because while it's intellectual property, certainly, and it's taken us a while to get here because there was nobody really doing it outside of the Irvine companies who were early and some of the other folks. You still have to climb that mountain. And so if you want more insight or you want to talk personally, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to chat.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Have a great day, guys. Thanks.